And I just don't want cats to think that that's the only option you have, man. The streets is done. There's nothing positive coming out of the streets. There's no growth from that. It's nothing, man. It's nothing. The best bet you could do, man, is find God. Get your life together, man. Yeah. 1 2 1 2. Welcome to the first episode of Grown Man Talks with Quasar the Artist. You know what I'm saying? This is for the grown men out here. It's not for little boys, you know what I'm saying? So this is real talk, you know? And what I wanted to do was I wanted to do something that was like different from what everybody else is talking about, man. I just want to talk about situations of where it comes time to apply that grown man nature in things, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert by any means. I'm still growing. I'm still growing daily. I'm still growing as a father. I'm still growing as a husband. I'm still growing as a man of God, you know? So, but I feel like, you know what I mean, I see a lot of things on social media with a lot of men that are supposed to be like light years ahead, and they're not, man. And they're like real stagnant emotionally wise, man. And that could be for many reasons, man. That could be for trauma or whatever, man. That just could be upbringing and different things, man. So I don't know. I just felt like I needed to kick it with my people and drop some gems on them. Don't get it twisted. I'm gonna mess up. This is my first episode. I'm not a genius at this, but it don't really take no genius to sit around and just talk, right? You don't gotta be a whiz to do that. Yeah. So who am I? First and foremost, you know, I'm Quasar the Artist, I'm a rapper, I'm an artist, content creator, producer, engineer, cameraman, director, editor. I wear many hats, but when I'm not wearing any of those hats, I'm wearing the most important hats, and that's the hats of a father and a husband. My background, where I come from, is real checkered, you know, so to speak. It's like, you know, I'm originally from the Bronx, New York, and I grew up in poverty. You know, I grew up in a broken home. You know, my parents were drug addicts. My father, he passed away 5 days after my mother died. My father used to take care of me. My father raised me. So I saw him sacrifice a lot to make sure that I had, or that I was able to do certain things, man. I don't believe by any means that my father felt as if he couldn't, you know, do something different other than doing drugs. I don't know. I just feel like he came up in the era where heroin was the drug of choice, where people used heroin. That was his era. So, you know, I felt like he never really had a chance. Back then, they didn't really have a lot of chances for black men. But he was what you call a functioning addict, right? My father, he was a functioning addict. He went to work. He got up and went to work every day. He had a job with the state. Got up and did his thing every day at the office. You know, a lot of times he took me with him. A lot of times he didn't. I had to learn things on my own a lot. You know, one thing I remember is that my father wasn't really a praying man, a man of faith, a man of God. We didn't go to church on Sundays. We didn't do none of that. To be honest, I don't know if he ever prayed or talked to God, because I never saw it with my eyes. You feel me? Just something I never saw. So I don't know if that's something that he might have did in his alone time or something he believed in. We never had that conversation. So being quite honest, I don't know where he stood with the Lord. So my seed in me was planted from my mother. My mother, she gave me a gift. The only gift I ever remember her giving me was one of those green Bibles. And she gave me that one time. And it was real important. It stood out to me because they got in a huge fight over it, because she put her last name in it instead of mine, instead of my father's. And they got in a big fight. They got in a big fight over that. So I remember that. You know what I mean? So my pops dies. My mom's died. My mom's died on my pop's birthday. My pops died 5 days later. So I was left to bounce around from different family member houses and different places, institutions, jail, group homes, you know what I mean? Which ultimately led me to being in prison. So I go to prison and I started in the group homes. First, the group homes was just training grounds for jail, right? Like DMX said, group homes and institutions prepared him for jail. So that's facts, because I remember, learning how to jail already before I even been there, being in the group homes, making do-rags out of the top of the boxes of the underwears and stuff like that, watching your back in the shower, you know what I'm saying? Just different things, having to be counted and staying in count. It's a sad, broken part of America, but that's what it is, man. So out of all of that, I chose to make decisions based off of what I thought I had to do as a man to survive. And that wasn't all facts. Like, nobody ever told me I could do other things than what I was doing. I only looked up to the drug dealers. I looked up to the hustlers when I was a kid. I gravitated to those type of crowds. I had positive role models in my family that went to college, that college graduates at this time, but I didn't look up to them. That's not something that I aspired to do. That didn't look cool to me. You know what I mean? The hustlers that I knew, from the neighborhood or older family members and relatives that were hustlers, that's what I looked up to. That's what I wanted to be. So that's what I pursued. Now, stupid me, I'm such an impressionable kid that I didn't even think that there was other things I could do with myself. Like, I could get a degree. I could learn how to get a trade. I could learn, I could go into the military or do anything other, but I wanted to run the streets. And in my mind, I kept telling myself, I ain't got no other option. This is what I gotta do. I gotta run the streets. But little did I know, I didn't have to run the streets. That's just a choice that I made for myself. I chose to make that decision to run the streets, and it ultimately cost me not just time, but years. It cost me years. It cost me years out of my life. And that's something that I always regret doing. I always regret doing it. I wish I could have did something different with myself. I wish I could have made better decisions. So that's what the purpose of this podcast is to give young brothers an idea of different things that they can do with themselves, man, other than what you think you only have to do, which is not true. I came from New York City out to Pennsylvania to hustle, you know what I'm saying, to sell crack and to put in some work. I was, somebody wanted me to kill somebody, and I was going to do it for money because I was young and I was stupid, and I thought that was the way to go to do that. But it ended up not happening that way. It didn't go down that way at all. I got a couple dollars. I felt like I was up. I felt like I was somebody, special. I felt like I was the man, you know what I'm saying? I was hard-headed. Somebody told me when I was younger that I don't realize poop stinks until it's all smushed up in my face. I ain't gonna realize it stinks until then. And that's the fact, because, I had, God would try to send different people to warn me not to do certain things, and I would still do it anyway. And then I would wind up in a situation like, oh man, how'd I get here? I wish I could, do something different. I wish I wasn't in this type of predicament, but it'd be too late. And then playing the tape back, I'd be looking like, oh man, I had other options. There was other things I could have done, but I chose to do what I wanted to do. And that ultimately cost me a lot. But every L ain't always a loss. You know what I'm saying? Most of the times, a lot of L's are going to be lessons. And that's how I like to look at it I like to look at it like it was a bunch of lessons, man. I think back to all the times that God was with me and protecting me when I was being stupid, when I was dumb and doing dumb things. See, that's why I know God. You know what I'm saying? Because I know what it's like to not have God in my life, to me to be living things on my own vices and doing my own thing. I know what that feels like to not, be covered by grace. Not covered by grace, to be operating outside of God's will. I know what that's like, to be operating outside of God's will. So I find myself out here, because I was just bouncing around in life, and it was just like, my man, what are you gonna do? You just gonna bounce around? I was a couch surfer. That's what I like to call myself. I was a couch surfer. I bounced from couch to couch to couch to couch. Hustling, running the streets, making money. All I cared about then was being fly. That's all I wanted to do. If you're from New York City, everybody knows that you gotta be fly, right? So that's all I cared about, was being fly. Sneakers, clothes, and that's it. That's all I felt like was important in life. And I remember people trying to talk to me, and I was just like, I don't want to hear that, man. I'm just gonna be fly. And then I got into this thing where being a goon was the thing to be. Like, there was no reason for me to go that route. I ended up in Job Corps before I ended up in jail. I was in Job Corps. Actually, no, I went to jail first. I was in North Carolina, and I went to jail because I got in a fight in school. I did a couple of high school years down there, and I ended up in little juvie jail, right? Because I was down there carrying on my group home behavior, and they locked me up. And I got out, and they was like, yo, you gotta go to school. You can't not just be in school. So I was suspended from school. I was kicked out of school. I couldn't go to no public school in the whole state of North Carolina. I was banned from school because I got caught with marijuana in school. So that's technically, back then, that was a drug charge. So if you got caught with drugs on the school premises, you were not allowed to go to school nowhere in the state. So I couldn't go to school, but legally I had to be in school. So my PO at the time came up with an option for me to go to Job Corps. I went to Job Corps, and I was in Job Corps. I had the opportunity to learn any trade I wanted. I had the opportunity to learn, to be something, to do something different other than what I knew. And I chose to go into culinary arts. Why? I didn't want to know how to cook. I went into culinary arts because that's where all the girls were. So I thought, all the girls is in cooking class. I'm going there. I get there, first day of class, all the girls that was there, that I saw there, they all graduated and left. It was just me and a couple of other dudes and probably one girl. And we was just it was like 4 of us, the smallest class ever. So I was like, this is whack. But I had to stick it out. I could have did other things that would have been more beneficial for me in life, but I chose that one. So fast forward, I'm about to be done with it, and they give me jobs. They give you a job in there for something. They gave me a job at KFC. I was like, I was in class learning how to be a chef, and now I get a job at KFC. Welcome to KFC. Can I take your order? Like, right? That was whack. That was corny. I didn't want to do that. It's like, I didn't sign up for this. I was like, man, screw culinary arts. And he was like, nah, don't quit. We'll get you another job. They got me another job. Guess what that other job was? That other job was in the barbecue house doing dishes. And I was like, man, cooking is the worst thing ever. I'm not doing this ever again. This is whack. I'm not spending no career doing this. This sucks. So I was like, I'm done with culinary arts. Never went back to it again. Just left it alone. Not knowing that chefs make top dollars. You hear me? Chefs make top dollars. All I had to do was go and apply somewhere. Like, I just came out at a fancy restaurant somewhere. I just came out of culinary arts. You know what I'm saying? They would have put me in position. I'm like, nah, I want to go back to New York City. So I went back to New York. I went and stayed at my brother's house. And my brother at this time in his life, my oldest brother at that time, he was a hustler. He was in the streets. He was on the road, out of town, doing his thing. And that's what I wanted to do. My brother wasn't, you know what I'm saying? He ain't baby me. He wasn't with he was like, man, you need to go get a job or something. You need to go figure something out. You ain't gonna be just laying up in my house. I ain't even just laying up in my house. So, you know what I'm saying? I used to travel a lot. I used to jump on a train and go wherever I wanted to go. You know what I'm saying? So I just jumped on a train. I'm in the Bronx. So I jump on a train, go out to Brooklyn. I'm hanging out in Brooklyn every day. And I start meeting people that are hustling. And, so that was my introduction into the streets. That was like right when I went to Brooklyn. I just started selling weed or whatever. Then I eventually started selling crack, and I learned all kind of criminal behavior from that. So I took that opportunity in Brooklyn to actually, because I've always been passionate about music. It's just that I never really took it serious. And even at that time when I was in Brooklyn, I was in a situation where I had, the people I was hustling with, they were signed to a label. My homie Nitty Biggs. Shout out to Nitty Biggs. Nitty Biggs, my man Chase. That's Nitty Biggs is his rap name. I call him Chase. My man Chase, he was signed to a label, and it was a pretty big label. They had a budget. They had millions behind them. They was doing things. I met a few people. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get into that in another episode, or maybe I got time to do that this one. Let me see. I might. You know what I'm saying? I met a few people, and I didn't take advantage of that situation. I wasn't taking rap serious. I was enjoying living off the crumbs off of his record deal. The luxuries that came with being close with him. I lived off of that. I wasn't learning anything. He did teach me how to write songs, because before meeting Chase, I just used to write page fulls of raps, no stop. Until I got tired of writing, I just used to write a whole page full of raps. And then eventually he was like, yo, you gotta break this up into 16s. It needs to be a 16, it needs to be a chorus hook, and then another 16, and I didn't understand. I figured that out from him. And then I was like, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? I get it now. So I learned that formula from that. But but he also showed me about going out of town, hustling, going OT, and how to bag up work, going uptown to Broadway, how to cop off of Broadway and re-up. Jada said election time trying to cop blow in the hallway. I remember those days. I remember those days being on Broadway hoping that Bobby don't come back with nothing, bogus. I was just in the streets for no reason at all. I didn't have to be. I was young. I had my whole life ahead of me, and nobody ever told me like, yo, listen, you're young, you can do this, you can do that, you don't have to do this. Everybody that I met that was older than me told me like, yo, man, you gotta get a bag, you gotta get to the dollar, you gotta chase to get this money. That's what I thought, and I was like, all right, that's just what I gotta do. I don't have no other choice. But it wasn't until I actually got older and realized that this is not what I needed to do, man, to survive. There was so many other options there for me. But I have ruined myself by doing that. I robbed So I ended up catching felonies and stuff like that. Now that I'm a convicted felon, I can't do certain things. Certain things I can't do. I can't go do this. I can't go do that. I can't apply here. I can't apply there, because I did that to myself, thinking that that's what I was required to do, thinking that's all I had to do. But I eventually, I think about the things that God saved me from when I was in that. He saved me from making my life worse beyond repair, if that makes any sense. I remember being in the projects, right? And I ain't have no money. I'm in the projects. I ain't have no money. I got a little chick I was dealing with at the time. That's about it. I ain't had no money, nothing. Staying in the projects with my cousin Cash, and we was over there gangbanging, right? We was over there cripping, gangbanging, right? Only thing I had was a sawed-off shotgun. So I said to myself, you know what I mean? I ain't got no money, but I got this shotgun. I'm gonna go outside and jam something. I was like, yep, I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna stick something up, because, that's what I gotta do. Instead of going to get a job, but that's what I gotta do, right? So I went outside to try to stick something. And the block that our building was on, it was like a little alley cut block. It was like a little cut block over there. So I go over there to Cut Block. It was by the hospital, Lincoln Hospital, the same hospital I was born in the Bronx. Lincoln Hospital, called it Stinking Lincoln. I said, yeah, I'm gonna jam something right over here, coming right here. Somebody coming out the hospital or going to see somebody in the hospital, I'm gonna catch them right here. It was snow outside. So I noticed a car turned up the block and it turned his lights off. And I thought that was pretty odd, but when it turned his lights off, from the lights of the hospital, the busy street where the hospital is, I could see everybody that was in their car. So I'm like, either these are people and I could count 3 bodies, 2 in the front, 1 in the back. So I was like, either it's 3 people in here looking to do the same thing I'm looking to do, or that's the police. So I was like, they was driving real slow up the block. So I was like, let me get out of here. I ain't trying to get in a shootout. I'm not trying to have a shootout out here. I make it really hot. I'm just trying to get a couple dollars. So I just noticed that they were driving real slow. So I jumped out. I noticed they was scaring me. They jumped. I didn't jump out, but I noticed they was driving real slow. So I was just like, I start skating off. And I get to where my window is, and I'm calling at the time, the little girl, not a little girl, but the chick I was dealing with. I'm calling her out the window like, yo, Janelle, open the door. Yo, Janelle, because I ain't have my keys on me. I'm like, yo, Janelle, yo, open the door. I could hear her in the crib on the cell phone laughing like a real hood bugger. Mad loud on the phone, talking about whatever she was talking about on the phone. She don't hear me calling her out the window. So then I'm mad. So police come around. Oh, because what made me start running was because when I peeled off, turned around the corner to peel off, I heard boom, boom. So I said, oh, that was the police. They jumped out. That's what made me heavy up and start running. I was like, oh, that was the police. Cause I could hear it was just me and them out there. All I heard was boom, boom. So I was like, oh yeah, they jumped out on me. So I see the cop. He's like, yo, excuse me, can I talk to you for a minute? And I'm like, yeah, officer, sure. Took off running the other direction. I'm running. I going to people to like, yo, hold the door, yo, hold the door. Because at the time in the projects, you should be able to grab the door and pull it and pop it open. Boom. You should be able to just pull a project door open and pop it. Boom. And at that time, the door had just got fixed, so we couldn't pop it open. So it was some little kids in front of the building. He was like, hold what door? Boom. Slammed the door in front of me. Thought it was funny. So I was like, these little bums. But they so I started running, and they I threw the shot. I had the shotgun in my North Face sleeve. I threw it in the bushes. They grabbed me and they sat me on the hood of the car, and I was just like, oh, it's over. I'm going to jail, because I knew that gun was dirty. I knew it was dirty, and I was just like, oh man, it's over. I'm done. And they was like, yeah, I seen him throw something around the corner. I seen him throw it around the corner. I seen him. So I'm like, yeah, it was around the corner. Yeah, definitely. Let's go. So so they didn't find the gun, right? And that I owe only to God, man. I owe only to God, man, because I just feel as if the repercussions that would have came out from that was not the path that the Lord had for my life at that particular moment. That wasn't designed for what he had for me. So I didn't go down for that. And one of my friends always told me, he's like, yo, you real lucky when it come to police. One of my friends told me that, because I was just certain situations I would always be able to maneuver out of, or like just blow past me or whatever. But I feel as if that God had something more in store for me, and it was on the path of me coming out to where I am now. Because that's the only reason why I would be out here. That's the only reason why I would be in this position that I am in my life now, where I'm serving Christ, where I'm in the church, I'm married, I have children, I'm settled down. There was so many people who gave up on me when I was a kid, man. And I say a kid, even though I was 19, 20, 21 years, I was still a kid mentally then, man. So many people that gave up on me and was like, yo, man, this guy's gonna be a loser for his whole life. You're gonna die young. You're not gonna even live to see a certain age, man. But God had I'm telling you, God had other plans for me, man. I had to come out here and go through some things. I came out here and started going to jail left and right for stuff. But it was like every time I went, I was coming out learning lessons, man. It didn't really start to kick in and affect me and make sense until I went to jail when I had my daughter. I was gone for 3 years, locked up, and that hurt. I came home, I got myself together, I got a job, got a car, got a place, and then I met my wife. And my wife, you know, the Bible says God he sent Adam a helper. You know what I'm saying? My wife was more spiritually mature. Like she grew up in church. So she was like exactly what I needed, yo. It's like the Lord will give you whatever he knows that you need, man. So he gave me a woman that was real spiritually mature in the word, in church, that kept me focused. Hey, I like the girl, right? You like the girl, you're gonna go out your way to impress the girl. And in my case, impressing the girl meant keeping my butt in church. But at the same time, my spirit was learning something. You feel me? At the same time, I was growing. At the same time, I was becoming something of myself, man. And it's a blessing to be able to do that, man. It's a real blessing. And I just don't want people to think that where you at now is gonna be where you at 10 years later. And that was one of the biggest things that I never ever did. I didn't think about 5-10 years from now. Hell, most of the time I didn't even think about next month. I only lived for right now. That was where my mindset was always at, right now. I don't care about tomorrow. I don't care about next week, next year, let alone 10 years from now. So once I was able to start thinking about the future, like, oh, okay, now you got children now you're responsible for children. Where are your children going to be in the next 5 years if you keep living like this? When are you going to grow up? I had to grow up. That's all facts. I had to grow up. And it was only until I began to grow up that I realized that this is not something I want to do. I don't want my life. I don't want to be that old head in jail, right? I don't want to be that old dude talking about, man, back in my day, man, we were. Nah, man. You begin to live life once you start caring about things that don't matter. Once you stop caring about what other people gonna say, what they think, or feeling like you gotta live a certain way just to prove something. I don't got nothing to prove no more, man. I don't got nothing to prove. I never had nothing to prove. You know what I'm saying? All the gangsters are in jail. All the gangsters are either dead, or all the gangsters got jobs now. I chose to be the one that got a job now, got a family, settled down. You know what I'm saying? Because the streets is filled of a bunch of nobodies going nowhere, man. And I just don't want cats to think that that's the only option you have, man. The streets is done. There's nothing positive coming out of the streets. There's no growth from that. It's nothing, man. It's nothing. The best bet you could do, man, is find God, get your life together, man. Word. And I try to tell these young cats this all the time, man. It's like, what you chasing after in the streets is a facade. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. It hasn't been nothing there. You would think I would have learned from my pop's era. My pops was a stick-up kid, so I thought that's what I had to do to impress him, you know, and to live it like I felt like I was following his legacy. This is what I need to do. Yeah, this is it. You know what I mean? So long story short, man, just focus on doing something with your life. Life is too short. Life is but a vapor. It goes by really quick, and then it'll be gone. You know what I mean? We all heading in the same direction, yo. So get your life together. Find God and do what you gotta do, man, for your family's sake, man. So it's your boy Quaser the Artist, and this is episode 1. Don't worry, it's gonna get better. It's going to get better. I'm gonna have guests. I'm gonna be doing so much more, man. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. And this is Grown Man Talk. You heard?